to call upon Mr. Angelo Salvatore, who is the Regional Channel Director, Sales. Angelo Salvatore has recently been appointed as Regional Channel Director, Sales. Prior to that, Angelo was hired in 2009 as Country Manager of Australia and New Zealand for 8 years. He has a Victorian Certificate of Education from Redding Catholic College, studied at Electronic Engineering at TAFE, and is currently continuing his studies towards a Bachelor of Business with a double major of Economics and Marketing at Swinburne University of Technology in Australia. Can we have a huge round of applause for him? And also, I would like to call upon Mr. Yeshaswi who is the Business Development Manager for APAC. Yeshaswi is a Business Development Manager for APAC. He drives the regional business development efforts with Benjamin and the APAC team. Yash works with the APAC field teams across the entire product portfolio.
So what's Milestone's platform? So the definition for Milestone's platform is pretty simple. So it is basically, it consists of an award-winning software which has the ability to enable amazing hardware, and it's supported by the relevant online services. So three things, three pillars. The first thing is you have your software, you have your hardware, and the services which go along with it. Now, what this has done in the past few years is that we've seen a move from Milestone being an open platform company to an open platform community, and to where we are right now, which is where we are moving towards right now, where we're creating this platform for our partners and our customers to work with. And this has propelled us, in terms of being the world's #1 DMS in terms of the market share. So we've been #1 for about 9 years now, and this year we have also taken over as the #1 DMS provider in APAC. Now going a bit more into the community. So what is the Milestone community all about? So as I said, we have three pillars. One is the software. So we want to enable the software platform of your choice. So we want to bring in our partners onto this platform, which is to do with the hardware and the services that go along with the software. So what does it really mean? What we're trying to say is that we are going to continue making innovations on our software platform, which will in turn enable our hardware partners to constantly improve their hardware platform to match the software. It's not a single direction development, but we're also going to be seeing that the hardware advancement is also pushing the software enhancements that we have. So in turn, it's a two-way traffic. We are trying to improve the software, the hardware is improving at the same time, and we are also able to bring in the services and the care solutions and which go along with the software. It gives the customers a lot of peace of mind to work with. And to this, we will also enable our SDK and our SDK, that's our software development kit, in form of APIs, which our community uses. So we opened up our software for our partners and third-party partner solutions to come in and do their own tricks, their own solutions on the software. And this is where they bring in the power of the community, right? And by doing this, we are trying to be, or we want to be, a part of every surveillance installation in the world. Now, the community makes it possible, I want to reiterate this, to be a part of every surveillance installation in the world. Talking about this, what's the direction that Milestone is making? So where is Milestone making its investments? The first investment that Milestone is making, starting in 2017 and going into 2018, is we're building on the connected devices. So we had Allied Telesis talk about IoT, so it is all about that. So you're going to be seeing a lot of connected devices, a lot of network devices on the IT platform. And now what Milestone is trying to do is expand this connected devices. We are also looking to move video processing from a traditional CPU-based processing onto a GPU, that's your graphical processing unit. And we're trying to add in more and more smart devices, which is able to create new metadata, new information. So we're building up this huge metadata framework in our backend in order to ensure that all information is collected. Now, once you have all this metadata, what do you do with the metadata? You need to implement something. So what we're trying to do is try and automate automation of the smart systems. Now, this will enable us to make use of the metadata and make use of metadata for doing deep learning. We want to bring in autonomous system to ensure that there is less human interaction and you require very little human intervention. The last but not the least, this is the buzzword right now, artificial intelligence. With deep learning comes in artificial intelligence. Systems are going to get more and more intuitive and it will enhance the operations and reduce the cost on your operation. And augmentation. We want to bring in a lot of visual compute which augments the operations with new type of visual representation or presentation, or make it very, very easy for the operator to actually use the systems. We want to bring down the human computer interfaces, which is going to amplify the operator intelligence. And intelligent augmentation will again help our operators and our the security operators in order to enhance the way that they make the decisions.
Thank you, Yesh. So one of the other topics we wanted to cover today with you was total cost of ownership. You would have heard from Angelo at Access, he talked about TCO. One of the things about TCO is that not a lot of people really understand what it means for different products. They may understand it for one particular item but not another item. So what I'm going to do today is just go through a little bit of an exercise and get you to start thinking about what TCO means in this industry. You may be familiar in other industries, the businesses that you operate in, you understand that. But in our industry, it has a lot of different variables, some of which have already been touched. But this is the definition of what we consider the total cost of ownership to be. And that's it's a financial estimate to help buyers and owners determine the direct costs and the indirect costs of a product or system over a period of time. Now we've talked about that period of time being somewhere around about 5 years or so. So how many of you have been in a transaction that looks like this? Looks good at the front, but they've got their hand in the back pocket. Not a good feeling, right? Because you trust the people to make a good, informed decision for you, and that you think you're getting the right deal, but it's only what they're showing you. And part of TCO is understanding what you're getting into when it comes to surveillance, when it comes to organising your system. And so I'm going to give you an example of how to start to look at TCO a little bit differently with something that you're already familiar with. And I started off by saying that TCO is something that we do quite naturally for certain products and not for other products. And because surveillance in the industry, you've heard Allied Telus talking about switching, you've heard Access talk about comes, there's so many bits and pieces. How do we work out this TCO? What is this TCO relative to this? Let me give you an example of what TCO is in something that you already know about. How many of you have bought one of these before? How many of you go into the dealership and say, I don't care, the price is the money, thank you very much, love the colour was beautiful, the seats are comfortable, and that's all I need to know. How many of you have done that? You give your dealer the hardest time in the world. He's going to tell you everything about the car. Why? Because when you drive out, it becomes your problem. The dealer waves you goodbye. Thank you very much. Takes the commission check in the front, and then the other costs start to come in. What do those other costs look like? Well, we talked about the initial cost, yeah? You bought the car. Insurance. Fuel efficiency. How many of you want to buy a car that's not fuel efficient? And you're going to check how fuel efficient that car is before you give the money. You're going to check. Why? Because it costs you money. So you guys understand TCO, right? It's just that you're not using it in our industry for some reason, or generally speaking. What about maintenance? You're going to buy a car that's cheap to buy, but costs you $1,000 every time, or a huge amount of dollars to repair or service every 6 months, 12 months, because the oil is 5 times more expensive for this car, the labour is 5 times more expensive for this car, they have to get special machinery to make it work. You want to know, how much is this car going to cost me to service for the next 5 years? And you try and get some sort of support from the manufacturer. So what about depreciation? You're going to take a lease out, or you're going to take a loan out to buy a car. What's my car going to be worth in 5 years? So then you look and say, well, for this particular model car, I can get 50% back in 5 years, or 30% back in 5 years. So you're already doing TCO. You know that the direct cost isn't the most important thing. Yet, the initial cost in our industry is the first question I've been asked every day since I've been here in India. How much is your software? How much discount will you give me? What's your best price? And whatever your best price is, I want half. Yeah? So it's like going to the dealer and saying, I want that car that costs me 5 times more to run than any other car, but at half price because I'm a really good negotiator. Unfortunately, that's not the way our industry works, because there's all the other costs as I've discussed.
So, looking back, so let's take an example in the security industry. So let's imagine this. So, let's say you're looking at a project which has 1,000 cameras, and you want all the 1,000 cameras to be running in a 1080p, 1080p with 30 frames a second, and you also want a recording of 180 days. As Angelo said earlier, these are the two questions which always get asked. You can ask any of our sales guys, they're going to come, hey Yash, they're going to ask me this question, right? How much does it cost? How much discount will you give me? Right? What's the lowest price that you can offer this? Now, what we do in projects very well, and I think all our customers do this really, really well, is they have penned this 3 aspects. That's the designing the system really well. They know what it takes to design the system. They know what it takes to have, what's the initial capex that they need to shell out in order to have the system really well, and the deployment. They work out both direct and indirect costs. Now, looking back at the last slide that Angelo showed, what we don't do really well is probably the most important things that we never talk about. How much is it going to take for me to operate the system over the next 5 years? What will be the maintenance cost? How do I upgrade the system? How do I expand the system? Is there scope for me to even expand? And one of the most important things we completely forget about is, what about retirement? Retirement of the system costs a lot of money. And we don't even talk about these things. And it's very important for us to keep all the 7 blocks in mind when we talk about the total cost of the system and how it actually works. Now let me give you this unique value that we bring into TCO over the 5 years. Right? So what we did was we did very similar like how Mr. Sudhindra Bhatta spoke about this. We took a look at competition. So we averaged the cost of 5 of our top competitors, and there were competitors from with a very low cost solution to a very high end, very expensive solution. So the total economic value of a project which is about 1,000 cameras, for the example that we took, 1,000 cameras, is about $2.1 million for the entire project. So, talking back, so all the different things that we had in the graph that Angelo showed, right, will cost us $2.1 million if you plug in all the gaps of both the direct and indirect costs. Now, taking an example, so if you're talking about the top 5 non-milestone softwares, the software cost it's going to be about $430,000. Oh wow, the Expedite is more expensive than this. But what we tend to forget is that while competitors' cost is cheaper than ours, what we do offer is two things. One is the software, and our TLC to this, the tender loving care, is the care package. Now, this is not just the 1 year care package, but we're talking about 5 years of care package built into the software. But staying here, how does the competition or the non-milestone software solution look like? The total economic value of the entire project is built by, you see a big chunk of the hardware cost going into play. Energy cost, we had Mr. Sunendra Bhalla talk about energy. That costs a lot of money. Energy, power, cooling, that costs a lot of money. Service costs. Now, how much is it actually going to take to service the entire solution? But how does it look with the milestone solution? An expert-based complete solution will cost you about $1.7 million. Now, what are we saving now in a 5-year period because of this? We're saving about $450,000 with this. And what does it really mean? It means that in 5 years, you're getting a milestone software completely free of cost. Right? And this will include, this also, since it includes care, it lets you do free upgradation. If you have we have three releases a year, so it gets you these 3 releases year on year, and you're protected for future. And I want to reiterate this again, 5th year, it pays for the entire milestone solution that you actually have purchased.
Thank you, Yesh. So we've talked about TCO, and I said to you before that I believe all of you are TCO aware. Maybe not as good in our industry as we see it, because this is what we do every day. So I just want to reinforce with you, as I took an example of a car, I'm going to give you another example where I'm sure you're very TCO aware. How many of you have been to, what's the retailer that has this? Flipkart, and seen these on the shelves? 2,000 rupees for a printer. Do you think that they can manufacture that printer that scans, copies, faxes, emails, makes you breakfast, says hello in the morning for 2,000 rupees? Probably not. What's your brain saying right now at the price of that machine? Is it a cheap machine? Good price? What you're thinking in the back of your mind is, how are they going to get me after? I take that machine home, what's the trick? Yeah? And you already know this, so I'm not asking you the question. Ever gone to buy these things? And if you add those 2 cartridges together, how much do they equal? More than the printer itself. And just as a little special bonus, the manufacturer of that printer doesn't give you full ones to start off with. They give you half. So you get to buy those special priced ones very quickly. But we know this when we look at printing. We do this for our office. This is 2,000 rupees. If we're talking $1 million, $2 million US for a project, or $500,000, why is it that somehow we lose disconnection about the total running costs in general? Not everybody, but in general. But we take a lot of time to think about a transaction which is worth a lot less.
So, why are we saying that we're going to reduce the requirement of hardware or reduce the number of servers? So Milestone has been enhancing its software for quite some time. So we brought in the industry's first 64-bit recording server, so it gives you a throughput of 3.1 gigabits per second throughput on your recording service. Now, what does this really mean? It means that you would be able to run more cameras on a single recording server. If I had to take one of the largest competitors, right, their recording server throughput per recording server is about 300 kb. And what does it tell you? It tells you that the Milestone recording engine is 10x times faster than our largest competitor. Now, the other thing that we've brought into the software over the last couple of years is the hardware decoding on both recording and and the servers and the client. So the industry has some of our competitors who have the hardware decoding on the client side, but currently we do not have any challenges or competition which has hardware decoding on the recording server. Now this decoding on the recording servers has moved the entire process of doing video motion detection on the GPU compared to the earlier CPUs. And suddenly, since the CPU is free, you can load more cameras on the same server, and it reduces. So for a 1,000 camera project that we were talking about earlier, from close to about 18 servers, you're reducing it to close to 8 or 9, and this includes failover as well. So it makes a big statement in the way that the hardware decoding works. Pre-buffering in RAM. One of the key things which is a big point of failure for us is the life of hard drives. Right? With pre-buffering in RAM, we have the ability to first record in RAM and then push this recorded data as a block transfer onto our databases. Now, because of this, we have reduced the failure rates of HDDs by close to about 5 times. So there's a reduction of 5 times. And then, that again adds into our tender loving care of the existing hardware and increasing the lifespan of the hardware that we buy. Scalable video quality recording. I like this is talking about bandwidth and how to reduce bandwidth. We had Access talking about the technology which reduces bandwidth. So what a scalable video quality recording does is it gives you the ability to record at high quality on the edge or directly on the cameras or on an outplace recording server. Centrally, you can push a really low quality video. Maybe you push 1080p, 720p or 640 by 480 your viewing stations and your centralized recording server. And on demand, you can request for a high quality video. So you can say that I want a video snip from timely to timely and please send me this high quality video. So it's possible for us from the client to fetch this video either from the edge or the remote recording server which is available. So all this play a big factor in bringing down the hardware costs, which is a very, very, very key thing, which is a one thing which can blow up the entire project cost for you. Energy savings. What does less number of servers mean? It means that you're going to have lesser power requirement. So you're going to have lesser real estate to actually cool. So cooling requirement. So per installation, for example, if you take the milestone Huskies, right, and compare the same thing with the 2-socket Xeon E5 servers, we're typically saving about $8,200 per machine over a period of 5 years. Now imagine 9 servers, how much of money that you're actually saving based on the energy savings.
Thank you, Yesh. So we've seen some of the benefits already when it comes to the hardware and how important it is to get a product such as Milestone to make what you've got in hardware more efficient, to lower the running costs, increase the performance. But one of the things that we've seen at the moment is that people are buying video management systems thinking about what's the best today. And they can't see the future 5 years' time. And we get a lot of feedback that says, yeah, just put it in, doesn't matter, whatever it does today in 5 years, I'll be happy, don't worry about it. But what we find is that the benefits that Yesh just talked about happened in the last 18 months to 2 years in our product. So it's like having the benefit of something, but you don't have access to it because Milestone is developing so quickly. So we invented a product called Care, and it's been around for a very long time because the way that Milestone looks at software is a relationship more than just taking the money up front. We take that as a relationship over many years. And my experience is my 9th year at Milestone is that most customers who are with Milestone for more than 1 year. with us for 5, 10 years. And I've got customers now pushing nearly 10 years, which is really exciting. So could you imagine those savings over 10 years if you had access to the latest technology? And so this is where this care comes in. And a lot of people say to me, we don't understand this milestone support care thing, it gets very complicated, it just means milestones taking more money from us, and we don't really need to spend that, we're okay. But I'm going to show you something, and we're going to go back to the car, because everybody understands TCO on car, right? It's easy to do, right? We do this every day because we get involved. Imagine in 2012, you walk into that dealership, you shake hands with that guy, and he sells you a car. Beautiful 2012 model. You're happy, you drive out, and then you're sitting down after work, reading the newspaper, and then on the TV comes an ad for the 2014 model. Just bought the 2012. Doesn't do anything different. I can live with that. Doesn't matter. Don't need to buy a new car, because then if it's 10,000 US and I've got to spend another 10,000, no, it's too hard. Then the 2016 version comes out, and you've missed out again, because now your car's starting to look very dated. But this is not about how you feel about the car. This is about the efficiency. This is about lowering your TCO. This is about lowering your costs. Because now the 2017 model comes out, and guess what? Compared to the one in 2012, it's got more power. It's more refined. It gives you better mileage. And you would consider upgrading your car after 5 years. You say, you know what, after 5 years, my old one's done a good job, time to change. But what happens in between? There's a big gap. And this is how we treat video surveillance now, as a gap. We buy something, we're happy, 5 years later it doesn't work, we pull it all out, and we start again. What if I said to you, it doesn't have to be that way? What if I said to you, this is how we see TCO using the same example? You buy the initial product, then what we do is we start to improve the efficiency, and it saves you money every year, more again the next year, and then by the 5th year, if you pay for the care every year, you've got a brand new car for 64% of what it would have cost to buy a brand new one. And guess what? There's no gap in the middle. And look at the savings that you can have in the technology that's coming forward. But people can't see 5 years ahead. They look at the transaction and say it's got money involved. But over 5 years, if you look at just what Yesh talked about in the last few slides, you see the savings of $8,000, $10,000, $20,000, cooling, heating, rack space. You can get the advantage of that. But what we do is we take the initial purchase price, we say good system, we did the right choice, everyone shakes hands and says you did a good job, the manufacturer, you got them down to this much price. But in 5 years, you go back out to tender. And you start the whole process again. So what you did on day one in the initial purchase was took out a loan of which you didn't know what the interest rate is going to be in 5 years' time, because you've got to start again. Because the system in 5 years' time is going to cost you new installation, new tender process, new compliance, new. What Milestone's saying is you don't have to change anything. Keep your system upgraded, and for 64% in year 5 of the 5 years, you get the new software. So you're getting a discount on top of your TCO. And you have the latest version of car, you use the car example, every single year. We see that as a really good deal, because it shows us that we're beyond the one transaction. And it's not just about the initial price. Because if you're only interested in the initial car, then really we're in the wrong business. Because surveillance is changing every day. The requirements are changing. Governments are asking for more. The community is asking for more. The pressure to deliver results is going up, not down. And the only way we can do that is allow the technology to move forward. So let's have a look at real TCO of 5 years using the same example. Okay? This is what would happen if you bought Milestone X Protect in 2012 and you paid an annual maintenance fee. If you took it out over 5 years, guess what was it per year roughly? 12%? 12% per year. In year 5, that's what your car looks like, because every year, you not only got one car per year, but with Milestone we have
3 cars.
3 per year. So if you went to that dealer and said, you know what, we're going to do a deal today, I'm going to buy this car, but in 4 months I'm going to come back, you're going to give me a new one. What do you think the dealer's going to say? Say you're crazy. Yeah, but you give me 12% a year, you give me a new car every 4 months. The dealer's going to say you're crazy. But this is what we do for 12% a year. And a lot of people don't take this out because they love the process of going to tender. They love the process of reading through submissions. They love the process of finding a new product. They love the process of going through everything and hope to God they make the right decision. Not me, but some people do. Or they can guarantee it from day one. You've got the new car in year 5. Whereas if you bought the competitor's product in 5 years' time, what does it look like? The same product you bought 5 years ago. Exactly the same. But you know what that competitor will say to you? We don't charge like Milestone does. We don't have these fees. They're just making money from your pocket. Really? Look at your car, look at my car, 5 years. Plus all the savings.
Not to forget the hidden costs.
And the hidden costs, of course. So the cost structure we have is quite flat. So this is the way we do it. This is the way the competitor does it. Now, if you still don't believe me, I'm just going to remind you of where I started with this part of the presentation. No matter if you don't pay it up front, I'll get it at the back. Because everything that we do is very simple. Channel, license, and the care. That's it. Very simple. We don't charge for extra clients. We don't charge for extra reporting. We don't charge for failure. We don't charge for active directory. We don't charge for that. It's all there up front. So none of this other stuff goes on that you can see in the back. Yeah? So I just want you to think. I'm not saying the others are doing something wrong, but I want you to ask the same questions you would ask when you buy a car. Or ask the same questions you would ask when you're buying a 2,000 rupee inkjet printer. That you should be asking when you spend a lot more than that here. So this slide is so long, I can't show you. So I'll do it again. Ready? Slow motion. Remember the cars? 2012 to 2017. This is the milestone product changes that we've done. And if you have a look just in 2016 to 2017, look how many new cars you would have got having care for free. Is that not important now? Saving costs on hardware, saving costs on heating, saving costs on cooling, putting more cameras per recorder, saving on hard drive performance.
Cyber security being upgraded.
Cyber security, I don't even have to go there, we all know that one, right? We're enhancing cyber security in every single version. So if we look at the car, you can buy the best of breed today of what someone's telling you, but if you look at how quickly Milestone works, and these are just key features, they're not all the features that we change. And as I said to you, look at this, 2016, 3 versions. 2017, there's 1 version coming out in October, that'll be another 3.
So this is going to be the last part of my presentation. It's talking about Angelo Spectrum. I think in the market today about Milestone, there's a perception that we are an advanced solution and we don't do anything in the low end. But the truth is, yes, Milestone look like this. We have for smaller and business-ready solutions, we had the Essential, Express, and Professional. And in the advanced segments, we had the Expert and the Corporate products. So this, in the last release, we released 2 new products. One is the Express Plus and the Professional Plus. And we also added a free software, which is the Essential Plus. We did away with the Essential product and we released Essential Plus. Now the key thing is that we had Angelo show us the big list of all the enhancements that we did. So why we released the Express and the Professional Plus is because we have moved the business ready solution on the same BMS core that builds our advanced products. The reason for this is we want to push in more and more features which are there in the advanced market into the business ready market. So that's the key reason for this. And this spread of products supports us to work in every every kind of installation, every size of installation that is there out there in the market. Now, talking about sizes of information, so let's take this example. How many of us do recognize this box here? Sorry? Yes. Sorry? Yes. This box is the latest small form factor box which has been released by Intel. Sorry?
It's an NCA box.
Correct. It's a NUC. It's an Intel NUC, and the size of this box is not bigger than my palm. And this box is a powerful box. It runs an i3 processor, 16 GB RAM, 2 TB, and it costs somewhere around $500, about 30,000 rupees. This box. Now, remember everything I told you about Milestone optimizing its software to work in hardware. So, how many cameras do you think we can run on this box? We're able to run 30 720p with 25 FPS per second. We can do server-side motion detection as well. We can do recording of motion, and it can run any X-Protect solution on this box. Now, this is the one end of the spectrum, and this box can be used by any of our partners or any of our end customers. They can just buy this hardware, cost us next to nothing. You can load Milestone software and run it off the box. You can attach and if you want more storage, I think this box has 2 TB max right now on the box, but you can add an attached storage, or like a DAS or a SAN attached to the box and extend the amount of storage that you want to. So this is one end of the spectrum. So what is the other thing that Milestone is doing in the other end of the spectrum? So as you remember, we spoke about hardware acceleration. So Milestone is placing a lot of emphasis going forward on the hardware acceleration. So one of the key things that we're working on is the GPU, that's the NVIDIA-based GPU processors. So earlier last month in Australia, we had the MPOP, that's the Milestone Open Platform Symposium. And in this, we had a Dell server running, which was running a Dell E60. And this was running not one, but 4 NVIDIA cards. And we had simulated about 1,500 streams on this box. And so this box was actually handling 45,000 frames per second. This is one box. And it was decoding 1,500 keyframes per second. And the CPU was clocking only about 45 to 50%. Now the key thing that you see here on this, I don't know if you can see the diagram. So you see the four pillars here. So each pillar is a GPU, and what the system does is, and what the Milestone software was able to do really, really well, is load balance this across the 4 GPUs. So this is the internal. This is how the GPU looks internally. So you have a memory, you have a decoder, you have an encoder, and the GPU processing on the GPU as well. So what Milestone wants to do on the GPU right now is simple VMD, the video motion detection. We were able to decode this and use the GPU for a little bit of the GPU processing for doing the actual VMD. And this takes away the CPU processing requirement, so that's why your CPU stack is still running 1,500 cameras on a single box is still only about 50 to 60%. What you also see empty is, right? So Milestone is already doing the hard work of decoding, right? And we are going to make this decoding available to our community partners, the decoded video, which means that in order to run analytics, you probably will not have to buy an extra box. You can run analytics in the same box. The analytics partners are going to make use of the GPU all in one box, doing recording 1,500 cameras, running analytics in the same box. Now, in case, like, let's assume that we don't have the NVIDIA GPU. So such a processor, a Dell 360, for example, can probably run about 400 cameras. And this camera, 400 cameras. So this server costs anywhere about $25,000 to $30,000. So imagine the number of servers that you really need to run 1,500 cameras. That's 5 times. You're spending 5 times the cost of this one box, whereas you can run. This is what we bring in. This is how we optimize our solutions, and this is where Milestone is going ahead in terms of development, further developing a product, and bringing in the big reducing your overall TCO. That's it from us.
Thank you.
Thank you.